A good Erev Pesach. I'm sure everybody is super busy with all the preparations and all the excitement and all the details. I wanted to share what I think is a very important message for Pesach, foundational for the Pesach Seder that hopefully we can give over to our children and to our guests and to our families. And also importantly, it's a new answer to a very famous question that most people have and that is very disturbing to understand the simple explanation of part of the story of our exodus and redemption from Egypt. So we find in the Torah that the Torah tells us that the Jewish people had no time to bake their dough. They actually gathered their dough in their clothing and took it with them to bake along the way. There was no time for the dough to rise. In addition to that, the Torah emphasizes that there was no food for the road. In Hebrew, that's called tzeda laderech. Tzeda is specifically a word that the Torah uses to describe travel food. So there was no travel food. And the question is, why not? The Jews, after all, were told that the night of Pesach, which, to be very clear, is the night of the 15th, following the daytime of the 14th. And on the daytime of the 14th, we slaughtered the Paschal lamb. On the night of the 15th, we needed to eat the Paschal lamb completely roasted and together with matzah and with maror, bitter herbs. Why not prepare food for the road and also bread, actual bread? Even though we were told to eat matzah, we were just told to eat matzah with the Paschal lamb. We were not told that chametz is prohibited, so why not prepare bread for the road? More than that, even though the Jewish people were told to eat the Pesach meat while it was roasted and the people were completely dressed with their belts on their hips and their shoes on their feet and their walking sticks in hand, they were also told that they would not leave at all because they were not allowed to leave their house until the morning. So despite the fact that the Torah says to eat the korban Pesach as though they're ready to travel, they were not allowed to leave the entire night. It kind of makes us wonder, what did they do the rest of the night if they were planning to leave and they were fully dressed? And certainly at that time, they could have baked bread or prepared food for the road. So I would like to suggest what I think is a brand new, at least to my awareness, and a simple approach that fits very much what the Torah itself says in the sentences. And that is that the Jewish people had no idea that they were leaving Egypt that very next day. All they knew is that they were told to slaughter the Pesach offering, which was the Egyptian god, to put the blood on the doorposts and on the top beam the lintel, and to eat the Pesach roasted with matzah and bitter herbs while they were fully dressed with staff in hand and belts girded, but they were never told that they were going to leave immediately following that. Now, that's interesting. Why would they not be told that they were going to leave? They were told that Hashem was going to strike the firstborn and that Hashem would pass over their homes if, in fact, they did the Pesach process with the blood on the doorpost and on the lintel. So why not tell them that they were going to leave? Now, obviously, we know that Hashem certainly knew when they were leaving. Hashem knows everything about the future. So why did Hashem not tell them? And my answer is as follows. In order for the Jewish people to leave Egypt, it's very clear from the entire storyline of the conversations between Moshe and Paro and the entire picture that Hashem was not going to forcibly take out the Jews against the will of the wicked Egyptian regime, against Paro, his servants, etc. Hashem was not going to forcibly take them out. Because if Hashem was going to forcibly take them out, that could have happened at any point. And even now, after striking the firstborn dead, or all the elder of every household, as one opinion says, even after killing all of those people, it's only because Paro called to Moshe and Aharon and said, get up, get out. And that the Egyptian people completely pressured the Jewish people to leave, as it says, that Egypt became strong and strengthened themselves to forcibly drive out the Jews from Egypt. And the Torah says, indeed, we were driven out from Egypt and also to leave in great haste. It's only in response to the Egyptians forcing us out, that then we left. Why? Because what needs to happen is not that the Jews need to leave. What needs to happen is that the wicked Egyptian regime submits their will to the will of the Almighty, to show that Hashem is the true king of the universe, that Hashem is the one that is the true God of creation. It's only then that we, the Jewish people, will leave. So, what would it take for this wicked regime to change their will? And the answer is, apparently it was the striking of the firstborn, and the fact that then, because of the decimation and the fear that these people felt, as the Torah says, that they saw all the deaths and they said, hey, we're all going to die, that then they pressured the Jews to leave. But still, why didn't Hashem tell us that that was going to happen if Hashem knew? And the answer is because, contrary to what most of us think, that we need to be prepared for when Mashiach is going to come. And we need to have all of our ducks in a row, all of our assets outside wherever we are, and somehow accessible to us when we eventually go to Eretz Yisrael. And that we need to be with our suitcases packed and everything truly prepared. The Torah's message here is not that at all. It's the opposite. We don't need to be prepared in the practical sense for our redemption. We need to be willing to immediately take action when the redemption is at hand. And therefore, on Pesach night, the redemption was at hand, because in the middle of the night, as the Torah says, Paro called for Moshe and Aaron. He had to go find Moshe and Aaron himself. And as the Torah says, Paro and his servants begged. They needed to bow down and submit to Moshe and to Aaron and say, get up, get out, like Hashem said. And it wasn't until that point that it was time for us to leave. And when it was time for us to leave, we were not supposed to be fully prepared with everything ready to go. What we needed is to know that in order for redemption to happen, we have to be able to move no matter what our state of preparedness actually is. And therefore, in that moment that Moshe and Aaron were told by Paro to go, Moshe and Aaron send a message to the Jews in Goshen, you need to leave. But the Jewish people were actually not allowed to leave until the morning, because the Torah says, eat the Pesach offering fully ready to go, but you do not leave your homes until the morning. Ad boker, the Torah says, until the morning. And so therefore, the message was that as soon as you're told to leave, you're going to have to leave, but only as soon as it's time for you to go. But you're not going to lollygag in Egypt for days. No. In the morning, you go. And that was a mighty busy morning. In addition to gathering whatever possessions they could take, they also needed to ask the Egyptians for their wealth, and they did. And in addition to that, they needed to take their food with them, and they had no prepared food because they were specifically not told that they were going to be leaving that day, so there was no food for the road. And whatever dough they had or could muster in the time that they needed to leave their homes, that's what they needed to do, and that is what the Jewish people did. So we get ready for our redemption by understanding that we have our staff in our hand and we're fully dressed and we have a commitment to go. But that doesn't mean that we know when the redemption is going to happen, just like we don't know what is going to be the end of the story in Iran and what all of those implications are. But our Pesach commitment is that whenever redemption is at hand and whatever action we need to take, we don't first make sure that we're fully ready and take our sweet old time, days, weeks, months, or years to do whatever is called for at the time of the redemption. No, we go. And that is a tremendous merit of our being redeemed, because the Jewish people were told in advance, slaughter the Egyptian god, put the blood on the doorpost to show that you reject this secular idol worship ideology. Also understand that you need to eat it with a state of commitment that you're ready to go, even though you're not fully ready. And you're not going to leave until the morning or who knows when, because it's about being fully willing to go without being ready. God willing, we should all have this mental preparedness that no matter what is asked from us as a Jewish nation, when the redemption is at hand, we are committed to following Hashem no matter what. And this is a pasuk from prophets, Zacharti la chesed ne'urayich lechtech acharai b'midbar be'eretz lo zeruah. We followed Hashem into the desert, into a land of no vegetation, and Hashem considers that to be a kindness of our youth. In our youthful becoming a nation, we had this kind of commitment. We demonstrated in Egypt. We demonstrated by leaving Egypt right away without food for the road and without bread that we could actually let bake fully in order to follow Hashem. Because redemption really means following Hashem and being in a relationship with Him for the long-term future. And that is the conclusion of our Pesach Seder, to be thankful and ecstatic over our ultimate relationship with Hashem, based on the commitment of the Pesach service, which is that we follow our love Hashem to the ends of the world, whenever He tells us to go, no matter what our state of physical preparedness is, because of our love for Him. And in that merit, Hashem will definitely redeem us on His timeline, whether we're ready or not in terms of our own preparedness. A good yantiv, a chag kasher v'sameach.